Hating sports can be a good thing. Texans, they got more than they've had in a while. What's the biggest grudge match for the Texans in 2024? Let's make the case for each one in the locker room.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do.
Hating sports. We all love it. Texans, there's a little more hate, healthy hate going around the NFL. It is the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker here breaking all this down. Be sure to subscribe, like, ride along. Best local coverage you'll get. Be there for the night streams at 10:30. And we'll get into this. What is the Texans' top grudge match in 2024? There's something to be said for hating sports. Hating sports is a great thing. It's healthy. It's not that serious. There's hate in the real world, and then there's hate in sports. Talking smack on a Sunday leading up to a game. The reality is, though, in the first 2 years of the Nick Caserio era, there really wasn't much hate because no one paid the Texans any mind. No one gave a damn about the Texans. No one cared what they did at all. No one even really even marked them on the calendar. And if anything, they were overlooking the Texans. They were looking it was basically a decorated bye week. Here are the things that make an elite grudge match. In my opinion. By the way, if you missed the Tank Dell video, the case for Tank Dell being the number one receiver, that dropped earlier today. It's doing pretty good. It's a strong case. Seems like there's a lot of people that believe in Tank Dell there. But here are the 5 things as far as being the number one receiver. Here are the 5 things that make an elite grudge match. Number 1, history. You got to have some sort of history, whether it's a small sample size of history or a large sample size of history. We'll see different examples of that when we make the case for each opponent. The Texans obviously have a long history with the old Oilers, aka the Tennessee Titans. They have a stronger history than you'd think with one of the teams on their schedule that I don't even think many people would have very high up on their list in top grudge matches. Number 2, you need fan passion. You need the fans to give a damn. You need a rowdy atmosphere. You need trash talk back and forth. You need fans to give a damn. So you need fan interest on both local ends coming from both directions. Number 3, you need player storylines. Whether it's CJ Stroud talking trash with one of the opponents, which there's multiple examples of that, or it's so-and-so trying to prove that he's better than so-and-so, or so-and-so trying to beat this team for the first time. You need player storylines. So you need history, fan passion, player storylines. Number 4, you need national attention. Somewhat. Now, locally, there can be some times where perhaps the local interest is higher than the national interest, but national interest helps. Texans have 6 primetime games, so the natural interest and the national attention is extremely high. So that's number 4. Number 5, you need something big on the line. You need something big on the line, something to play for to make it an elite grudge match. So number 1, history. Number 2, fan passion. Number 3, player storylines. Number 4, national attention. Number 5, something on the line. No doubt. Chef says, I think it's the Jets. They got to want to avenge that first matchup, and a win would back up CJ claims of preferring Stafford. That's an interesting nobody's talking about there. For sure. Raul says maybe the Lions after Thanksgiving, no call. LOL. Trey says the grudge with the Oilers is so deep that the Titans cried about the shade of blue. This is a good point, and we will get into this. Colts getting some more. Chill out. We're really with the consistent content, Landry. Hey, I've been doing this consistent content on here for 2 years. I've just had to do some other stuff for sure, which might be the case sooner rather than later if we do that there. Someone says they're talking good about the Yankees. I don't even know what you are talking about there. That's really interesting to say the least. And then here it is right here. And this is going to be one of the more polarizing topics. Got to beat the Cowboys. Too many friends talking bleep all the time. 4 years too long in between games, which I think might actually hurt the case, right? If you don't play that often, I know it's just right up the street, but if you don't play that often, is there really? I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but if you don't play that often, how much of a grudge match can it really be? Like that's kind of a question I have. Someone in our division, we'll check about that. Both inches. That's a funny name. Appreciate the support, my friend. For sure. So let's make the case for and the case against each of the grudge matches. And again, history, fan passion, player storylines, national attention, something on the line is what we will what the criteria will be for breaking down these grudge matches. It is the Locker Room, by the way. Be sure to subscribe, like, ride along. Best pulse of what's going on. Localized content. Like, I'm not going to talk about Dan Hurley or something like that. Localized content. This is Houston. You're here to talk Houston sports. So you can go to ESPN if you want to get that type of content. And I'll rank my grudge matches at the end. But let's start with the Colts. The Indianapolis Colts. There's been some dialogue between CJ Stroud and members of the Indianapolis Colts. Zaire Franklin on his In the Trenches podcast actually kind of tried to, I don't know if this was squashing the beef or just intensifying the anticipation of week one. We know the Texans ended the Colts season last year. Let's hear what Franklin had to say about all the talk between CJ Stroud. Did they beef at the Super Bowl, all that type of stuff. Let's hear what they have to say. Break it down, bruh. Okay. He's not going to talk now. But Zaire Franklin talking smack about TJ. CJ, we'll try to get back to that in a sec. What exactly was and wasn't said. I'm looking forward to this grudge match. I promise you we'll get. Here we go. Here is Zaire Franklin and teammates talking about the grudge match.
So you feel me? That's just kind of where I'm at with it.
Week one is going to be crazy.
Momentous.
There's not really much to say about it, man. Look. We ain't gonna be going back and forth on socials. Like, we ain't gonna really run into each other. Like, this ain't basketball. This football. I get to put my hands on it. We gonna dress, bro, or what? Because we going viral right now.
All right, so there you go. They're apparently cool. Now, the Colts, when we go through the criteria of the best grudge match, the Colts have, number one, they have history. You can go back and you can remember Peyton Manning. You can remember Andrew Luck. The fan passion, I don't know if the fan passion and the hate for the Colts is very high. The Texans have gotten the best of the Colts in this era, in the Steichen and the CJ Stroud / D'Amico Ryans era, to where I think maybe the Colts hate the Texans a little bit more than the Colts. I don't want to say the Texans fans are sleeping on the Colts, but there doesn't seem to be as much fire as there is with other teams. Player storylines, that's obvious. We just kind of saw it there. National attention, kind of, but not really. And something big on the line. We've already seen these teams play with something big on the line, so maybe that carries over, but there's a small history. But there is a strong case for the Indianapolis Colts. Number two is the Cowboys. There's a lot of people who dislike the Cowboys, and we will have joint streams. Weekly, we will have joint streams with the stuff. Pete says, I need someone to argue with. Yeah, it's always good to have a co-host, especially if the co-host is engaged, consistent with the prep and all that type of stuff. It is very, very fun when you can go back and forth, but that is the fun way to do it. For sure. Cowboys, look, there's not much. There's a little tiny bit of history with the Cowboys. The first game in franchise history, Obviously, the Houston-Dallas connection. I'm not saying it's not a thing. And I actually think if you put this poll out there and ask what the biggest grudge match is, and if you think so, get it in the comments. The Cowboys would be the biggest case. And I think they would generate the largest amount of votes. I just don't really get it. You play them once every 4 years, maybe. It's not like the Oilers even have history with them. Yes, I think it's kind of like Cowboy fans might rub you the wrong way. But as far as like the overall magnitude, I guess the national attention, it comes with playing the Cowboys. But by the time the Texans play the Cowboys, how good are the Cowboys really going to be? Now, we've had C.J. Stroud and Micah Parsons. There is that element. So you have the player storylines. You have the brother-on-brother matchup, Diggs versus Diggs. But the Cowboys beef, while it would probably get the most votes, I just don't know that the Cowboys are really just that meaningful of a game. Which brings me to the Ravens. I don't know that the Ravens would even be in the top 4 of the voting, but if we're just looking at history. And we're looking at the brief history of this regime, of C.J. Stroud, of D'Amico Ryans. If we're looking at the brief history of that, they beat you your first game and they beat you your last game. So the one time that you've had to walk off the field with the prominent members of this team, and we can include Will Anderson, we can include Derek Stingley, all their playoff experience, the one time that you have been handed the reality that your season's over, it was the Baltimore Ravens. And it really wasn't close despite the first half. You lost to them twice. So they're the only team that's beaten you twice, and they ended your season. You're doing it on Christmas. I think when it comes to the overall history of the Texans, this regime of the Texans, a strong case can be made that the Baltimore Ravens got the most relevant history and they got the most relevant matchups. So I think the Ravens need to be higher up on this list for sure. Chiefs. Now, a lot of people mention the 24-0 game against the Chiefs in 2019, and it's almost mentioned as if there's a sour taste in your mouth. You felt like you were going to go to the conference championship game. Not only were you going to go to the conference championship game, you were going to get to host the Tennessee Titans, and you were going to be 60 minutes away, most likely favored to make the Super Bowl. That still kind of hurts. I'm not going to lie. It still kind of hurts. But if you look at where you are now and where you could have been then, where I think Bill O'Brien, hell, with the way things were going, him and Jack might have gotten a lifetime contract if the Texans had won that game. And we know that wouldn't have ended well. And we also know, look, the Texans weren't going to go win the next 2 games. I just, with that coaching staff, with how vanilla the offense was, it just didn't feel that way. So as much as it hurts, I think now that enough time has passed, you can almost convince yourself that perhaps that was a blessing in disguise. Maybe that was a blessing in disguise for sure when it comes to the Chiefs. There's reason to hate them. They're on TV a lot. You have the Travis Kelce factor. You have the Patrick Mahomes factor. But as far as like the magnitude with the Texans, this regime, this era, you've never really played them. So I wouldn't put the Chiefs too high up on the list. Here's a really strong favorite, the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans, there's been fuel added to that fire. This was Hannah McNair back in the day talking. It wasn't really that much back in the day, but you know what I mean. This is her adding a little fuel to the fire of the Tennessee Titans rivalry.
Are you ready to play the Titans again? I know you kind of enjoyed that sweep last year. You got that marked on the calendar. Is that
you know what's so funny is I was seeing some articles about Hannah salty about them wearing the uniforms. Who started that? Who started it? Wearing it against us. And then if anybody was at that game, their in-house PA was instigating it. It was unbelievable, but
Mhm.
also wonderful because we finished the
You won.
story. Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
She went.
I mean,
pretty rogue.
who's salty here?
Yeah, that's what I don't get. I kind of like that. Is that going to be something that maybe we get a little bit of healthy rivalry where,
Rivalry is
It's
good
here.
for the league.
do a
It's
little
here,
switch?
Yeah,
right?
it's good for
It's
the
here.
league.
And are the Titans are the top rival. It seems like it kind of moves right now. Is that our top rival?
Well, first they need to beat us.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So it's not a
wow.
rivalry yet.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
So we got to go.
That's
we gotta
how you
go.
do it.
It's
Right.
okay.
Go.
It's okay.
All right. So there's Hannah McNair adding some fuel to that fire. Look, you have everything that you need when it comes to a rival. Amy Adams Stank stopping you from having more blue in your uniform. You have the Oilers leaving for Tennessee. You have the being in the same division for a while. You have Hannah McNair adding some healthy fuel to the fire. It goes back to that healthy sports hate. Now you've beaten them twice, but there's been a lot of talk between fan bases. I think when it comes to interaction, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are in the streets a hell of a lot more than me. There is not even a close second when it comes to the interaction between the Texans and the Titans and the back and forth. Not even close. So I think the Titans, while I don't know how good this Tennessee Titans team is going to be, I don't know how much of an identity they have. It seemed like they were going to try to rebuild and then they decided not to, and now they're there. But this is a strong potential 1 seed. Next potential grudge match, let's go with the Jags. Look, I think there's a certain level, and I don't want to speak for everyone. I'm speaking for me. If your opinion's different, just let me know. I think there's a certain level of kind of eye roll the last few years with the Jags, in that you were supposed to have the second coming at quarterback. After you won the division, you were supposed to run away with it. The win-loss total in Vegas, I think, was the third most. You kind of folded. The quarterback didn't really take significant strides. He was on and off the field. And now I don't want to say they're not a threat. It just doesn't seem like they generate or move the needle as much as the Titans or even the Colts do, which is crazy because if you told me the Jags are going to win the division this year, I wouldn't say you're nuts. I mean, way crazier things have happened. And it's going to be interesting to see what that football team looks like with the moves they made this offseason. But the Jags, there really is no beef between CJ and Trevor Lawrence. You split last year. There's no beef between the squads. There's really not as much excitement. Doug Peterson, I know he's the only coach in the division that's won a Super Bowl, but he really is probably the most boring and the most generic. So despite the fact that the Jags are in your division, and despite the fact the Jags are where they are, and they maybe you're trying to get where they're at, it just seems like there's not a lot of emotion generated when it comes to the Jags. G says the Jags will always be mid. I mean, they've had some good years. I just don't look at them as that much. Brandon says the Ravens likely regress this year too. We'll see. Jonathan says truth right there. Need to beat the Ravens to solidify the Texans' presence. I think that's the most history right there with the Ravens. Lions, Packers, and Bears. Oh my. There's really no case to be made here, right? I mean, maybe we could look at this, and I know they might be hyping up Texans and Lions as like some sort of Super Bowl preview, maybe. But as of right now, it's going to be a lot of excitement. But as far as a grudge match, I don't really see a lot of grudge with the Lions, Packers, or Bears. Now, I do think there's potential, specifically with the Packers and Bears. And this is no disrespect to Jared Goff. I just think he's kind of at a different point in his career. But if you're looking at Jordan Love and you're looking at Caleb Williams, and the Bears game as a whole is the game I'm most looking forward to this year. It's going to be the first one at home, and you're going to get a look at Caleb Williams for the first time. It's going to be the first time that you see the fans post 2024. It's going to be their first chance to love up on the Texans, and they're going to be liquored up, and the parking lot's going to be going nuts and all that type of stuff. But as far as like history and some sort of grudge match, like I don't think people were going to head into the Green Bay and the Chicago game with like some sort of extra fire and wanting to beat those squads. But with Jordan Love and Caleb Williams and CJ Stroud all being around the same point in their career, it could be the start of something. And maybe if we're having this conversation in a few years, there could be a possibility of that being a bigger grudge match, if you will. G's very optimistic. I don't see us losing more than 3 games. Okay. That's real wild. Predator 2. I've never seen Predator 2. I have no idea. Closest thing I've watched. I used to watch Chris Hansen in that To Catch a Predator, which was crazy. I don't know why the hell they got rid of that show. Vikings. Who gives a damn about the Vikings? Let's be honest. CJ might want to beat JJ McCarthy's ass just because of the Ohio State thing where you lost to him when he was at Michigan. But who gives a damn about the Vikings? Bills is interesting. They're kind of in your same tier. Now, it might be more of an individual grudge match for Stephon Diggs because he's going against his former squad, and who knows what the hell's going to be said there. But as far as Texans and Bills, you played in the playoffs in, what was it, 19? And it was a heroic performance, but no one on this current roster was there. John Weeks was there. He doesn't care. I mean, he's not just foaming at the mouth with the Bills. So while you're kind of in the same tier as Buffalo, it's not really like a grudge match that you mark on the calendar. So Bills, not the Stephon Diggs, though, individual grudge match and the national attention, then that might be something to keep an eye on. But as far as like fans, I mean, nah, that ain't nothing. For sure. That's not it at all. Jets. I saw someone mention Jets just because CJ walked off the field last year. Now, I will say, I do think that the comments about Aaron Rodgers, whether they were misconstrued or not, and I think this was a good point brought up earlier in the stream. So shout out to you for the update. I do think that the Aaron Rodgers, CJ Stroud thing will get intensified. But I also think that Aaron Rodgers, more than anyone, knows that once the national media or someone grabs words and tries to magnify them, sometimes it's not a representation of perhaps what you meant or what you claim to have meant. So maybe 6 years ago, Aaron Rodgers would have taken this and ran with it. I don't think that's going to be the case. And we've also heard Aaron Rodgers talk about CJ Stroud. He's had nothing but good things to say. And quite frankly, CJ said some good things about Aaron Rodgers. As far as what went down last year in New York and the way in which stuff got handled and the way it went down, I don't think that that's really fresh on the Texans' mind. Now, you do have the Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley matchup. That's another individual matchup. But as far as just Texans fans, we got to go get revenge on the Jets. Like, that game was forgotten weeks after it happened. It had no impact. Now, had the Texans not made the playoffs because of it, then maybe you look back at it a little different. But they ended up winning the division after that game. CJ Stroud came back. They really didn't miss a beat. So Jets, not really on the radar of the top grudge matches, although I do think that there is an interesting element with the CJ Stroud thing. Chef with the R, the way the media led by Florio is pushing the Rodgers thing by CJ, Jets is the biggest candidate, especially we lost them. Which media? I'm not really as into generalizations, but like which media? You're talking ESPN, you're talking Florio, because I think Florio is taking it to a different level, but which media? Are you talking like ESPN? We got to be specific. We got to give specific names here. It's like when I used to work at 610 and they would be like 610 said this or 610 said that. The media is not all saying the same thing. So I don't know which media you're speaking of, but yeah, maybe so. In your mind, it's all of the media. I just don't really see that. Dolphins, who cares? Mike McDaniel and D'Amico Ryans, that's cool. Tua, good quarterback. I don't think he's on the same level as CJ. Don't really see much there. The Dolphins, not huge. Although there is possibility when you have Tyreek Hill that a rivalry can always intensify. So there's a strong case for Indianapolis. There's a strong case for Dallas. There's a case for the Ravens. There's a case for the Titans. And then other than that, I think anything else, there might be some storylines, but there's not a ton that really move the needle. Landlock, top 4 grudge matches before we get out of here. And let me know what you think is the top grudge match. Number 1, I think it's the Tennessee Titans. You have the city on city history, the powder blues, all that type of stuff. You have Hannah McNair with Amy Adams Stank. You have passionate fan bases. So the Tennessee Titans would be number 1. Number 2 would be the Indianapolis Colts. I think this is history brewing right here. The Indianapolis Colts. That would be number 2. Number 3, the Dallas Cowboys. I don't get it. I don't think the history is strong, but the Dallas Cowboys would be number 3. And then number 4 would be the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens, I don't think too many people would have them on their top 4 list, but if you just look at the actual history of this squad, there's a strong case to be made for the Baltimore Ravens. They ended your damn season. They've beaten you twice. They're the only team that has beaten D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud twice. You haven't beaten them. So you got to put the Baltimore Ravens there. What is y'all's list? Let me know if you have one. And I'll get to a couple of comments before before I get out of here. Rose says he hates the Titans and the old Colts. I don't know if that means like the history. Christian S says, I love the Lions too. It does seem like a lot of people, like as far as like casual rooting interest, they do like the Lions. G says, I think we blow the Lions out. Rose says, Ravens, Derek Yu. Shout out to Derek Yu. My worst experiences with opposing fans have been in Jacksonville. Well, that's interesting. I know that it can get a little bit rowdy there. But yeah, that's interesting. I don't know too many Jaguars fans, to be honest with you. I don't mean that as an insult. I don't know many. I don't interact with many. I don't even know like who covers the team out there as much. I think Wiggins used to do his thing. And then you have Pete Prisco or whatever. I don't know much about the Jags. Brandon says, I mean, we have the Minneapolis Miracle and Daniil Hunter. They have Cashman and Grenard. There you go. That's individual matchups for sure. Grenard and I could see Grenard talking about feeling disrespected that he wasn't made an offer leading up to. I don't think that's like going to move the national needle. Raul Garcia, someone offed themselves during one of the broadcasts, and that's why they canceled the show. I have no idea what you're talking about. Trey of Texas, the realistic hope should be that we have 10 wins before week 15, 16, 17, Dolphins, Chiefs, Ravens. So if you go 1 of 3, you're still a playoff team in good shape. You're going to be coming off the bye week against the Dolphins, and the Ravens are going to have as much rest as you've had, actually less if you factor in the bye week, and they're going to have to come to your place on Christmas Day. I actually think you have pretty good advantages over those 3 teams. Now, they still might be better, but those are still significant advantages, right? Like if someone's bigger and badder, like let's say you're fighting Mike Tyson in his prime, if he has to tie one hand behind his back, or he gets less sleep than you, or he's traveled more than you, or he has less rest than you, you still have an advantage over those squads. I actually think the December layout is more favorable than it's getting credit for. He was talking To Catch a Predator. Okay. Yeah. You talking about Chris Hansen? No doubt. Zay, appreciate you for coming through. Hit me up on the 1030 stream, which we've been doing for a while now. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. Let me know which grudge match you are most excited for. And always remember, when it comes to this Texans stuff, we're all in it together. Thanks for coming through.
Yeah. Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop. Won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.